Good day, Sarah.
Okay, I am going to call our meeting to order, and our before we start, our secretary is going to be running late. So Julie, can I appoint you secretary until she
Sure.
gets here?
Yes.
Once she gets here, she'll jump back into that role, and Julie can come off. And I'm going to ask everyone to rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. We have some new hires, so we're going to jump into those first. We have one for Kelly Campbell. That teacher is, you can step right up. Because we had to change the time of the meeting, that teacher is running a little late. When Kelly gets here, we'll kind of wrap up whatever we're doing, and then we'll stop and we'll go to that introduction. So we are going to start with Cassie's.
All right, so I have two new hires, both in first grade. So first we have Miss Paige Bowden. She went through multiple rounds of interviews, including a literacy lesson with one of our first grade classrooms. She comes to us graduating from Madonna University and was an intern at Discovery this last semester in second grade with Miss Wilson. We were all very, very impressed with her, not only her presence in the building during her short time with us, her ability to create relationships with students in the classroom, but we were also very impressed with her lesson and the way that she handled herself during our interview process. When talking with her mentor and with cooperating teacher, she was described as being a great collaborator, someone who has a true gift for getting to know some of those more hard to love and more difficult students, and that she is just really one to ask questions and go the extra mile to make sure that she is doing everything that she can for students. My second candidate is Mrs. Kimberly Kurth, and she is coming to us with multiple years of experiences in other districts. Again, went through a rigorous interview process, including, a lesson with some of our first graders this past couple weeks ago. She comes to us with a bachelor's and master's degree from Michigan State University. And her colleagues describe her as being an exceptional teacher, very knowledgeable in the area of reading, and very skilled in the area of the MTSS process and small group reading, which obviously we know is so important to us here at Williamston and at Discovery. So very excited to be welcoming these two candidates to you.
Are there any questions? Okay, I'm going to, let's go through, we'll take these one at a time. I'll ask for a motion and then call for the roll, or call for the vote, and then we will go congratulate them. So let's do both of them, and then we will make our way to congratulate. So can I please have a motion for Kimberly?
I make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education hire Kimberly Kurth to be a teacher beginning with the 2024-25 school year.
Second.
Okay, first by Sarah, second by Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can I have a recommendation for Paige?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education hire Paige Bowden to be a teacher beginning with the 2024-25 school year.
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to Dave. So first Deb, second Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I did just see
Kelly
our next, Kelly Campbell come in with our next candidate. So how about if we do her and then we will move to congratulate
Move on with
her.
your agenda. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Nice to see everybody. So I would like to introduce to you Ms. Sierra Brown, who after a busy day of teaching fourth graders, hustled down from Mount Pleasant, Michigan to be with us here this evening. You know, This was a big hire for us. Our third grade team is widely known for being super collaborative and really supportive of one another, and to be losing a veteran teacher like Mrs. Cobb has felt like, wow, this is going to be a really big hole to fill, right? And so we were taking this process very, very seriously. And I can tell you that the third grade teachers who sat in on this committee, along with other members of our team, just really enjoyed hearing from Sierra right away. The thoughtfulness and depth of her responses to our questions. It was really great connecting with her current principal and hearing how well regarded she is. She's someone who, even early in her career, has already found opportunities to have leadership roles in her building. She is someone who her teacher describes, or her principal describes, as an all-in educator, committed to really supporting her students academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally. She really wanted to single out the great work that she does with differentiated instruction and really letting data guide the way. But I think what really did it in terms of this recommendation was when our team saw her teach a group of our third graders. And what the committee said to me, their words were, it was joyful. It just felt joyful, and they just could feel her connection with the students coming off. And so on behalf of that third grade team and myself, I would like to recommend Ms. Sierra Brown to the board.
Are there any questions? Okay, can I please have a motion?
I make that the Williamston Community School Board of Education hire Sierra Brown to be a teacher beginning with the 2024-25 school year.
I second it.
Deb is fine.
Okay, so I have a first from Julie, second by Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations to our new Williamston community employees.
I'll go this way. Congratulations, welcome.
Yeah, because I did my undergrad there, so I know that community very well. Thank you so much for starting that.
Okay, thank you. Again, congratulations to our new employees. Very excited to have you and start the school year. I think some of you are still finishing your school years. So congratulations on getting through the end of the year, and we will see you in the fall. Again, please do not feel, you are more than welcome to stay, but do not feel like you have to. This part of citizen comments is open. So this part of citizen comments is open to anyone that has, would like to address the board on anything that is our agenda. We do have a closed session and then a baseball game. So can I possibly have a motion or look at an motion to open up citizen comments to anybody who would like to, not just keep it to our agenda? So anyone who would address the board can address the board for any reason right now instead of waiting till the end.
I make a motion that we amend the agenda to include citizen comments for any subject matter.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, so we have a first by Sarah, second by Chris. Did you get the motion, Betsy? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if anybody would like to address the board, you may you may step up to the podium, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes, and I will give you a 1-minute warning.
My name's Yvonne Key, and I live on Maple Shade Drive. My grandson just graduated. I have been a former employee of Williamston Schools. I have been a volunteer from the time my kids were little. I have been a member of PTA. I've been on several committees, and I just want to say that I am appalled by the speaker yesterday at the graduation. I've never seen anything more politicized as what I observed yesterday. If the graduates had gotten their diplomas before the speaker yesterday, I believe that a lot of people would have walked out of that. It doesn't matter what political view you have. What happened yesterday with that speaker should never have happened. He talked about himself. He was a draft dodger. And never went to jail for it because his father got him out of it, but went to jail for something else. Talked about racism, that things are not any better now than they were back then. I graduated 5 years after he did, okay? I had friends who fought in Vietnam, went to Vietnam. I had friends who were killed, okay, during that time. I just cannot fathom this guy going up there and talking all about himself and then directing the kids to vote and directing them to vote in a certain direction. And you notice which way I'm pointing, okay? That's exactly what he did. It's not right, it's not proper. That was not a speech that should have been given to high school graduates. He needed to talk to those kids and encourage them about their future. Instead, he directed them in a way that was telling them that, our democracy, our world is gone to hell, okay? I just don't know who decided to ask this guy to speak, okay? He should have been told, somebody should have proofread his speech, okay? I do want to congratulate the students that spoke. I love their speeches, okay? But that guy should not have been allowed to speak, okay? That's my view as a grandparent.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Gail Cobb. For those of you who don't know me, I hope you do by now. But I live in Williamston. My address is probably 416 Highland more than it is 3436 Douglas Road, but that ends on Friday. And I just wanted to take a minute to publicly thank the board and to publicly thank Adam. I want to put my WEA co-president hat on and just let you guys know that it was great to work with you the last 2 years. We felt very heard, we felt very supported, and so I wanted to thank you for passing on that support to teachers. And I also wanted to thank you personally as a teacher over the last 23 years for your support. I know you guys all weren't in that role when I started, but this has been a great place to teach. It's been a great place to live and have kids and raise them in this community. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. Anybody else?
My name is Matthew Key. I live on Dietz Road in Williamston. I graduated from Williamston in 2001. I don't remember graduation. I have no idea who spoke, what was said, anything. But yesterday on my way home from graduation, my son said to me, "I'm never gonna forget that, because that guy was an asshole." I wanna know, was it the board's intention to put someone up there just to stand on a soapbox and campaign for Joe Biden? Was that the board's intention, putting him up there? Did you seen his speech before he gave it. Because I got another daughter in 8th grade right now, and I'm wondering if I need to pull her out of Williamston schools and take her to Weberville. Because that's how pissed off I am. Williamston boasts about how great they are, all their number one at this, number one at that. You know what Williamston's good at? Williamston's good at preparing kids for college. That's it, not the real life. When I came through here, I was pressured into college. Dropped out after 2 years. Went to another college, dropped out after a year. Started my own business, very successful now. I look at stuff going on in Weberville. They've got a greenhouse there. They're teaching kids how to grow stuff. They got FFA. They're teaching kids. They're preparing kids for the real world. They're teaching them how to do their taxes. They're teaching them about mortgages. They're teaching them all sorts of stuff. So now I'm wondering if I'm better off sending my kids to Weberville instead of Williamston. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Before I move on, just so members of the audience know, the time for citizen comments is for you to come up and address the board. It is not a time for us to dialogue back and forth with you. So I appreciate and thank you for your comments. I do want to let the board know, because I'm not sure we've ever really talked about this, the process of choosing the speaker and how that kind of goes. And Adam, please jump in if I'm getting something wrong here. So this was an award that was started maybe 10 years ago, if that, I can't remember. And the community recommends or puts people up for this award. So from there, the information that kind of is submitted is vetted by our administration. They kind of go through and make sure what people say they've done is true. A winner is chosen, and then that person does meet with our principal and has a pretty extensive conversation about what we're looking for in a speech and whether they can do that or not. I do know that Dr. Dell met with him extensively, and they had conversations back and forth. He did let him know that we're looking, and everyone is told this, we're looking for like a 5-minute speech, 5 to 8 minutes, something that's gonna inspire our kids, kind of make them feel like they're, coming out like Rocky, and that it is for all students. It is a speech that captures everybody. Unfortunately, for some people that did not hit the mark with our gentleman speaker. And I know Dr. Delp is thinking about the future and making sure that we can have more specific dialogue. I know I've had numerous conversations with Dr. Delp today. We've had people that enjoyed the speech, we had other people that didn't. So it is, we've heard a mix of things. It is not this board's intent ever to offend anybody, and I do apologize if that's how someone took that. But I have been assured that the conversations were had were that it should be an inspirational message for all students, not political, and unfortunately, some people feel it went down that road. And I don't want to speak for everybody and their feelings of how things went. So if we have questions, so if you have really specific questions of how that process is done, I would reach out to Adam. Is there anything you want to add? Did I kind of capture it correctly?
Yes.
That's
All
it?
right.
So, next year, there's thoughts about things for next year, and we'll see how things play out for graduation and what is going to be on the agenda. Any questions about, I'm not sure. Again, if you have specific questions, I would reach out to Adam and he can get more detail, but that is kind of the overview of how it's my understanding of how our speaker is picked. We've had really good speakers in the past. We did have one gentleman who, someone reminded me that, you know, he did his presentation on fish. That was a really long one that went away. It is unfortunate that anyone did not get to enjoy graduation. That was not our intent.
Well, I do have one question, because I kind of felt the same. I was not inspired by it. And I did message Adam afterwards, but I want to know, like, how, like, I've been in this community for 24 years, and I've never, as a community member, been polled on a distinguished, you know, you said it was community is who gives it, so I would like to just further information later on how a community selects. And how
Well, the
that
community
goes, so.
doesn't accept, the community can
Nominate.
nominate.
Okay.
So there was something, I did see something that went out on social media about that they were accepting nominations. I do also know, a long time ago, when we had the enterprise, it would be in the enterprise. I haven't necessarily paid, I did see it this year go out through some of our social media things. There might have even been an email sent, I'm not sure on that, but I did see it somewhere. So I don't know the specifics of that, maybe Adam can find. I mean, there are some years where we get 10 or 12 applicants, other years we might get one. We don't always necessarily pick the one. I do know there was a year when we first started this where we only got one applicant and they didn't feel that that person met the standards that they were looking for. And I believe Narda was here at the time, and she went back to the 12 that we got and pulled someone from that group.
Okay.
So, again, I'm not exactly, I did see it somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure, but we can get you that information. Anything else before we move on? Okay. Any other citizen comments? I guess, I'm sorry, I shouldn't move on before I ask that.
My name's Amber Key. My son, I live on Dietz Road. My son graduated yesterday. And this was a hot topic with, I get that there's only a couple of us here, but walking out of graduation, it was all anyone talked about, which is not fair to the kids who graduated yesterday. This was about them. And it went from being about them to being about what this guy feels. And a lot of them left with less of a, yay, I graduated, my future looks bright, to a, well, this guy basically told us the world is screwed. That being said, and I say that because I don't have a better term for it, but that being said, a lot of adults, a lot of parents, there's been a lot of discussion through a lot of people today, not just my husband and I and our family, lots of people we've talked to. Obviously, we have a senior, I have a daughter that graduated last year, and I have a daughter in middle school, so there's a lot of parents, there's a lot of families with kids our ages that we talk to. That being said, in the conversations, we did talk about how, with other people, how the selection is made. And he himself did say that a board member asked him to do this. He said it in his speech yesterday. He gave her name. They were friends in high school. She asked him to do this. So that's where it does fall on the board, in part, especially since the invitation was extended from a board member. That being said, we also know that there were 3 candidates, and that one was preferred over this one, and this one was pushed because he's an elderly gentleman that might not be around next year to do it, so let's have him come this year and this other person come next year. And because that kind of choice was made, we're hearing this. And it doesn't matter to me what other people's political views are. I don't care that I don't care that his political views, like, I don't care if they match up with mine at all. My concern was that all those kids yesterday, instead of it being happy and instead of it being like this really great thing, we graduated, hooray, like even their peers are given inspirational speeches, we're all gonna go on to do great things, let's do great things. They left with either, oh wow, I'm going into a screwed up world, or what in the world was that? It wasn't, it wasn't the same as a year ago when we walked out with my daughter because of that. And that's what I think matters, is that as the school board, you guys have to make sure that whoever is up there talking to them, especially in a graduation standpoint, but even in a school setting period, whoever's up there talking to them and directing them, like, politics is for the family, that's for home. That's everyone's choice as a parent. That's everyone's choice as a family. So that should be left to that, but this should be more a celebration of them, not what somebody's opinions are. And it sucks that for them, it was not that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Can't see if there's anyone behind the podium.
No.
Last call? Okay. I guess again, talking to the board, we are community members, and again, if one of us wants to nominate someone, we do have that right. I don't know how the choice went. I don't know how that choice went. We're not part of that, and maybe we need to be. So, I don't know, there'll be more discussion, I'm sure, about this as the future goes on for next year. Again, any other specific questions, reach out to Adam or I, and we'll continue to have conversations about how we move forward. Thank you, everybody, and we're gonna move on to citizen comments. Celebrations.
Good evening, board members. Celebrations for this evening. First, thank you for moving up the meeting an hour. Obviously, there's a potential historic event tonight for our district, and looking forward to hopefully catching the end of that, celebrating with our families and our students. First, we have numerous stories posted on the website celebrating our senior class that graduated yesterday. First and foremost, I just want to again commend them, as I said in my update on Friday. Not only have they distinguished themselves by their many individual and collective recognitions, most importantly, at least to me, they were just great kids. And they did things the right way and really set a positive example for the other students throughout the district. And I'm greatly appreciative of that. The accomplishments are awesome, and they're going to do great things moving forward. But what I'm most proud of is how they represented themselves as a class and how they were excellent role models for the other kids throughout the district. We have a few stories that I've posted. We'll have some stuff on commencement here once I get some pictures from the event, although the LSJ did a pretty nice spread yesterday with some photographs, but we'll have more when our photographer gets those to us hopefully this week. First, we have our top, which is kind of an annual tradition, our annual top 10 graduates in our academic All-A honor roll. Congratulations to Amanda. I know you have a graduate that's on that list. And this kind of goes back to a tradition that used to be in the Lansing State Journal, but they did away with, so we've just kind of continued that on our own to publish that, even though that publication does not include that anymore. Another story is just an overall congratulations to the class of 24. We tried to do some photos of their last week, including some of the traditional celebrations, senior awards night, which is always a highlight, their senior class project day, which is awesome. I don't know who's more happy about that, either the preschool students who got to work with them or our maintenance department, who gets probably 2 months worth of work done in one day with their assistants. We also had numerous parent volunteers who came in to help with the graduation luncheon and during the rehearsal day, and then as always the parade of seniors through the schools, which again, especially with this class, is very inspirational for our students throughout the district to see those great role models that they look up to, high-five them through the hallways. Moving on to some other items that have occurred. The Math and Science Academy Showcase was held 2 Sundays ago. It's always one of the highlights of the year, representing original work, original research done by students in the MSA. Some really interesting research that was on display and discussed, most of which I could not explain to you if you asked me to do it. But the link on the website does have sublinks to the original research that the students conducted, and so you can read more, watch some videos on the research they conducted, and just a very impressive evening for the school district to hear about those projects that those students are working on. In closing, this is our last meeting that's going to be during the school year. I just want to thank our staff. Every year has a lot of ups and downs, a lot of challenges. Some you see coming and some you don't. But in every case, they've risen to the occasion. They've problem solved, they've come up with solutions, they put in extra time, and it's always about the kids. Not every place is like that, and I'm grateful for everything they've done to make this another successful school year despite all the adversity that inevitably comes with, well, every day of school. So those are celebrations this evening, pending your questions.
I just have a quick question. I thought it was awesome to see the seniors in shirts, coordinating shirts, both as just to show what a unified force can do for good and as a nice memento for them. But I was just curious how those were funded. If it was a donation or student government? Or
I would have to get back with
okay.
you. I know they do shirts for Project Day, and then they do senior shirts for their
they
last
always
day.
get a shirt?
So that's probably something along those lines. I can find out.
Well, I thought it was very nice.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on, we have education update, our infamous preschool administrator.
And I do have to say that the preschool students really loved having the seniors come out. They like swarmed them right off the gate and dragged them in, and whether or not they wanted to work with them, the preschool students were gonna have those seniors stay for a long time. So I appreciate the seniors coming out. Thank you for letting me come in and talk to you today and give a little bit of an educational update about the Kids Corner and Little Hornet programs. I'll try and be quick so that you can all get to our historic game this evening. So I just wanted to give a really quick update of our progress toward our school improvement goals. The one we're going to focus on the most tonight is literacy. We did quite a bit of work around literacy with teachers' mindset, teachers' evidence-based instructional strategies, as well as what is defining what early childhood literacy is. The first point on there is that 85% success rate toward curriculum fidelity. If you remember 3 years ago, I sat here and said, hey, we want to try a new curriculum. Well, it does take 3 years for them a teacher and a school to really implement that curriculum with fidelity. We want to make sure that they're teaching the lessons with the scope and sequence that the researchers designed the curriculum by. We want to make sure that they're following the guidance of the narrative and of instruction to make sure that the students are getting the most quality education. So through a lot of different efforts over the last 3 years, we really did hit that 85%, which was our goal mark, and we did that. It was measured through different curriculum fidelity tools, lesson plan reviews, ongoing coaching, and a lot of different formats. So I put it under literacy as our success, but it was also in the same math and social emotional, so it's grouped all together. We did focus a bit on teacher professional development, both at the lead level and our assistant teacher levels, saying that the more confidence and more knowledge that teachers have in that evidence-based instruction, the better the children are going to receive the information and ultimately that's achievement success. So we did what we call unpacking the standards, which is that alignment of instructional approaches. We took one specific skill, and in this one it was letter naming, so it's a subcomponent of alphabetic knowledge. Looked at defining the skills to make sure that all of us were on the same page, that really collective agreement of what that is, how to teach it, when to teach it, how to assess it, and how to monitor that the students are learning it. And so across the board, all of the teachers are under the same understanding, so then the instruction for the children is really aligned. That also went from our preschool level to the kindergarten level, looking at that connection between preschool and kindergarten so that our Teachers know where the children are going, the kindergarten teachers know what the students have received, and then looking at our outcome data for that. And then the third point was that looking at assistant teachers, we did a little bit different model of professional development this year with our assistant teachers. And we gave them a chunk of information with very small group. We really used the MTSS project for our teachers, essentially. We did small group instruction towards literacy and using the Michigan Department of Education Essential Literacy Instructional Practices guidance document. Gave them about an hour of small group work, really great rich conversation with maybe 4 or 5 teachers. Then we sent them with homework to practice in the classroom. Then we brought them back in again the next cycle and did it again, and we did 3 cycles of that. What we noticed with that is that the teachers really had better communication amongst their colleagues. They were all working towards that common goal, and we saw a lot more literacy instruction embedded throughout the day by all the teachers. So huge amount of confidence level in our teachers that went through that process. Same thing, I just put a couple little points in there for our math and social emotional, and when I come back next year, I'll elaborate more on that. We did a family satisfaction survey for both Kids Corner and Little Hornets. We had a 37% rate for our Little Hornets and a 43% rate, which was phenomenal, for Kids Corner family surveys. We did just a Likert scale on 4 points that had highly dissatisfied or strongly disagree, up to highly satisfied or strongly agree. We asked questions such as safety, curriculum, communication practice amongst teachers and the office staff, overall satisfaction. And then especially on the Kids Corner one, we asked for student voice. We asked especially, do they feel safe emotionally? Do they feel safe physically within our environment? So we're really, really proud of that number of 96.6% of Little Hornet families and 91.3% rated it as highly satisfied. So the top portion. We had really favorable responses. I put some of the parent feedback in there. The Little Hornets were a lot more, gave a lot more written feedback than our Kids Corner families, but it was very, very successful feedback. What I want to draw attention to, what we drew attention to when we reviewed these surveys, is when parents wrote their responses, they were connecting their child's experience to their child's learning. They were connecting it to their child's confidence level, their social emotional learning. So those are goals of our program and our objectives, and we're seeing those really transfer through that the parents are understanding those goals. So that was pretty exciting for us to see. What we are going to do is how we're going to incorporate some of this feedback into our practice is that Little Hornets really love the parental involvement that we had this year, our celebration of learning events, where we invite the families in and children take their parents around and showcase what they've learned throughout the year. They really had favorable responses on that, and so we're going to try and improve that parental involvement and see if we can incorporate a couple more of those learning events throughout the year. Kids Corner students really had that input on materials and activities that we're going to try and incorporate and give them more of a voice in their program. Lastly, I wanted to, well, not lastly, you don't get rid of me that easy, but I wanted to showcase a little bit about the GSRP expansion or pre-K for all. So you're going to hear both of those terms. GSRP expansion is what has been happening over the last several years. We're trying to just get more children involved in that Great Start to Readiness program, more opportunities for free preschool. Ingham County right now and the state of Michigan is just in a natural phase of GSRP expansion, meaning they're opening up a little bit more slots, they're allocating a little bit more funds in general towards early childhood. You hear the term pre-K for all. Pre-K for all is the governor's initiative or the governor's proposal saying that every single 4-year-old within the state of Michigan should have a free public education. So those terms are a little bit different, but some people are using them interchangeably. So I wanted to kind of showcase the difference on there. In your thing, I linked some different links if you want to look at it, but there is a pre-K for all roadmap. The left-hand box is kind of where we are right now. So there is proposals within the budget that are right now in the joint House and Senate committees that offer 3 different paths for early childhood next year, per se. The pink line is our current guidelines. If you were to qualify for a Great Start Readiness Grant, you hear me say those words a lot, there's an income cap, a current income cap, and that's 300 FPL is federal poverty level. There is the governor's budget that now says there's no income cap whatsoever, okay? The second, that green line is the House is proposing, saying, well, we're gonna keep an income cap, but we're gonna raise it to 350%. The Senate's proposal said, oh, we're gonna raise it to 400%. We don't know what's gonna come out of any of the things. It could look like that, it could be something completely different. So right now, we're at the whim of the legislature. So what we've done in Williamston is planned for all of the contingencies. Well, as many as I can think of. So the third column in there is the eligible 4-year-old families. So what might we be looking at based on the different proposals? And so I tried to put those numbers in there. We do know right now that Ingham County in itself is in a Great Start to Readiness expansion. Ingham County has ability to, even if the governor's proposal doesn't go through and we keep the current guidelines, we can still expand our opportunities to educate those young children. So we're basing off of that and then have contingency plans to go even farther. So that's what the right side is saying. So next year, we are going to increase our allocated slot allowance. I petitioned the ISD for more slots, and because we've had a really good success rate over Williamston and the longevity of our program, I was awarded those as slots. So this year we had 30 GSRP students, and next year we have opportunities for 54 students. So that's a huge, huge jump in our ability to educate those kids. If some of the additional proposals go through, we are positioning ourselves to convert one of the tuition classrooms of up to 18 kids into a GSRP enrollment, and then we can put them in based on the FPL. We have the ability in our program right now, based on the space, to educate a maximum of 72 full-time 4-year-old students. So what does that look like? It's going to look like our class configurations. We are going to keep our half-day programs. We're going to keep our current full-day programs, but we are going to add an additional class of 18 students. We're going to get really creative with sharing of space to make this work. There may be some growing pains, but with the addition of that class, we're going to offer that 5-day, full-day GSRP program. Currently, we've been only offering a 4-day, and some of the community has said 5-day would be beneficial, as well as the governor has said this is a direction we want to go. So we are going to add that. We have the ability to maintain or convert some of those other full-time tuition slots. So if we can help and support the families, we're positioning ourselves to do that. With that, we will be transitioning to the 180 instructional day student calendar. Currently, Little Hornets has always operated that Labor Day through Memorial Day calendar, but it is in the requirement of the GSRP expansion that if you offer that 5-day program, you do have to go to that 180 instructional days. So there are some concessions within that calendar, some leeway that the preschool has, so we don't have to keep every single instructional day like K-12 does. We can have some early release days for additional planning. We can have some early release days for conferences. There's a whole lot of nuances in that we're working really closely with my teaching teams with their feedback, as well as the ISD, to set the best 180-day calendars for our little young ones. With that expansion, there's the opportunity for additional startup grants, which is approximately $25,000 each that we have requested from the ISD. They gave a verbal saying that they were going to award those startup grants, but we haven't gotten anything in writing. So we'll see what that final number comes out, and when that does, we'll work really closely with Adam, Sarah, Brandon to make sure that we spend that money in the best ways possible. Okay. Before I get to my handbook updates, any questions about pre-K for all, GSRP expansion, our school updates. I can take questions.
I have a quick question. So
Mhm.
are we gonna go to the 72 full-time 4-year-old 5-day regardless? Or,
Yes, we're going to the 72 full-time 4-year-old students. 2 classes will be 4-day, 2 classes will be 5-day. Yes, we are going to do that, and I feel confident in our enrollment in that right now. There's some other concessions. If we don't have students who meet initial eligibility, we can do some over-income grants, and we've been allotted that from the ISD.
are we maxing it at 72, or could we go to like 84?
Well, there is the ability within the governor's proposal, if pre-K for all does go through, that you can increase the class size from 18 to 20 for our youngest learners. With that, the GSRP manual does have to change because it does have a maximum of 18. We really said this year, with the amount of growing pains that we may have going to 5-day, we would really like to keep it at that 18. We feel it's a really good quality number. It's been established that way for a long time. Our youngest learners need smaller groups. And so that is our current plan right now, to maintain that class size of 18 and not go to the recommendation of the maximum of 20 per class.
Nice, thank you. Any other questions before Rebecca moves on?
No, this is hugely exciting. Congratulations.
It's very exciting. They don't move as fast as I would like them to move so that I can move, but we're just trying to position ourselves in the best way.
All right.
Oh, I do that too much. Okay, so for our handbook updates, we do have, I think I come with always the most extensive list of handbook updates. And there's a couple different reasons for this. I'm bringing both our family handbook that just has a few updates and our employee handbook that's got quite extensive updates. It is extremely hard to read, and I'm just going to preface this by saying I will really diligently go through and make sure that all of the edits are proper with all of the uppercase and punctuation, because it was really hard to edit. We keep making these improvements to the family handbook, and we haven't brought the employee handbook in for a while. And so now we're really aligning the two practices, wording, really updating our, not necessarily the policy, but how we approach policies. For instance, kind of the quality, using the most current industry language, especially in our employee handbook. Another reason there is quite a bit of updates is that our program is engaging on what's called the Great Start to Quality Improvement process. I know they use these same terms over and over. And it is a program evaluation. It used to be our star rating that we've had for many, many years, and they've changed the process. Right now, they've gotten really, really, stringent and specific on where they want to see things within your written policies that encompass all of the ages that you serve for the students. So we had a lot of the written policies in place for our preschool students. We had them in practice for our elementary school students, but they weren't written. So that's where you see some of the family handbook written policy for our school-age students. We also really want to align with all of those industry standards and really articulate what good stuff we're doing in the classroom into our handbooks. Any questions about the handbooks? Because there was.
As we said, and as we say to all of the administrators, thank you for redlining. That makes it a lot easier for us to be able to truly understand what's being taken out, what's being left in, and what's being changed, so thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of, like I said, in a lot of the staff handbook, the language was just, it was written in more of a negative a tone that was prior to myself coming on, and so I just wanted to make it more representative of what we truly do right now.
Any other questions? I do want to, I mirror Chris. It makes it, I've been on this board a long time, going over handbooks, trying to figure out what's new and what's old is really hard, so I do appreciate that too. Makes it much easier. Any other questions for Rebecca? If you come up with any before we move this to motion, please make sure you get a hold of her. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Adam.
I just wanted to make sure we recognize one more time the outstanding staff members we have on our team who are retiring this year. We've listed them and their years of service in the agenda. Also appreciate the very nice turnout for our retiree open house last week and the board support with that. And they're going to be missed. Great educators and even better people. As far as upcoming presentation and discussion items, the 17th of June, we'll have an update on summer projects and Matt's Law reporting. And then that'll be it for the what year is this? 24, 23, 24. All right, this school year. So there we go. That's it for my report tonight, pending any questions.
Okay, moving on, board committee reports, finance and facilities.
We had a finance meeting that went over a lot of different things on May 28th, most of which we're going to be talking about today. So I'm not going to take a lot of time talking about what we talked about because we're going to be talking about it again.
Okay.
But we are going to get a lot of updates today from Sarah, and in the end, everything's looking good. So.
All right, policy.
We met on the 30th and went through quite a large number of different policies. A lot of these are new adoptions from the Truant Handbook, reviewing some of the older policies that needed updating, kind of necessitated reviewing the connected policies, so we had a bit of a domino effect and a lot were updated, many of which were due to changes in laws and things like that, but the complete breakdown is in your board packet.
All right, and I think a bunch of those are on for discussion also. So then moving right along, discussion, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
All right, so the first item we will discuss is this current year, the 23-24 final budget. Okay. So what we're discussing on this one is, what I'm presenting today is the final budget in comparison to the amendment that I submitted to you guys earlier this year. You'll see they're pretty much very close. The amendment, we were going to be submitting about just over $1 million increase to fund balance, and now with this completed one, it's going to be just under $1 million. And again, I know I've said this a million times, that is very strategically planned, and you will see kind of why we're building up that fund balance in the next presentation I have. So here you'll see we have quite a few increases in our revenues. They also will have a lot of corresponding expenses directly related to them. So our the per pupil allocation, we just had a slight increase there. Imagine Learning 99U, that was a curriculum, so we had the funding come in, we purchased that, so you'll see the expense on the other side, the next slide, sorry. MIPSR's rate subsidy, that's our ORS, that adjusts all the time throughout the year, so you'll see a corresponding expense. Section 97I and 97J, those are security type items that you will see a corresponding expense for as well. Educator compensation program, the 27, I think it's L or I. Okay, educator compensation program. That's really funding that came from the state to help us increase teacher wages. What we're doing is just putting that towards our teacher salaries that we've already increased. We also have an increase here of our My Class investment. I believe this $60,000 increase is bumping the total investment to about $110 expected for the current fiscal year. Health Resource Advocate, a decrease. Unfortunately, we had an audit with the ISD, and we're having to pull back some of that funding. GSRP decrease, that's really to match what we expect to actually utilize this year. With our braided program, we get a lot of funding that we unfortunately can't maximize because of that braided structure. We have to apply a portion based on the enrollment in each classroom, and that does interfere with our ability to use those funds. And then the other miscellaneous revenue adjustment decrease of $22,000 there. Expense adjustments, again, the MIPSER's rate subsidy, that's ORS, we increased the expense to match the revenue increase. Imagine Learning, that's the expense going out. Section 97I and J, those expenses going out. We did have an increase in building subs and noon aids. That was really due to some increased FMLA or long-term leaves that we weren't expecting, so just bumped that up a bit. Software agreements increased this year, and then we had other miscellaneous expense increases across the board, small amounts that netted out to about $90,000 there. All in all, everything is still looking really good for us. We're expecting to contribute just under that $1 million to fund balance, which will bring us to 25.3% of expenditures, or $6.7 million for the end of this school year. Any questions on that one?
I just had a question in reference to the health resource.
Yes.
How will that affect us next year? I mean, I'm assuming that's our school nurse. Is that?
No, it's actually not. This
okay.
current year, it's actually our, her title is Health Resource Advocate. That's Heather Lewis. We also have a COVID testing coordinator and a student, is it health? What is Leah's title?
Essentially a nurse's assistant.
Basically. And so because COVID has decreased, they're saying we can only use like our health or our plan coordinator's time to the extent that it was actually spent on coordinating COVID, which was so minimal, and the rest of the time would have been helping support the school. So we had to decrease what we thought was going to be 100% HRA funding to, I don't even know what it's going to end up being. We have to still address that. But I actually think it will look better next year. We've applied for 4 positions next year, and I believe it's about 120 per FTE. So we're hoping to cover our nurse next year, who is currently covered with ESSER. We will keep our current health resource advocate and maybe put a social worker there, because those activities are also allowed under HRA. So hoping for better next year. But
Basically, anytime you're off task from your grant allowable, and they changed the rules in September, remember fiscal year for us starts in July. They said you can't count that. So if the phone rings and they answer it, it's not about COVID, you can't charge that to the grant. So
yeah.
that's how we ended up in that spot.
Thank you.
Anything else on that one? Okay. Thanks, Dave. Okay, so this next one is next year's budget proposal. And as you know, everything is still up in the air with the state, so these are all just educated guesses, so I'm going to do the best that I can. So you'll see what I'm expecting it to be the original as comparison to what I just presented to you, the final of last year's budget. I know when we spoke earlier in the year, we were expecting like a flush balanced budget for this coming year, and I will show you where that's changing. It is going to look like we are going to pull about $238,000 from fund balance. So again, that's why we've been contributing these bulk amounts to fund balance these past few years to help mitigate us pulling from those because of this one-time funding going away. And I know this is tiny and hard to read, but basically we're losing a lot of revenue. We do have an increase due to the per pupil allocation. I used the most conservative amount there, so that could potentially go up. Hopefully will go up. We're losing this district transportation reimbursement that we have been kind of calling the high school outlay. We use those funds as they were unexpected to help do some updates at the high school that were needed. We're going to lose our section 310, which is supporting our psychologist, our nurse, and I believe our social work, a couple social workers as well. 31AA, mental health, and section 97, safety and security, those are going away, or at least being dramatically reduced. We do have some carryover that we're still going to use in this coming year, but as far as we know, we don't know what those amounts will be, if we will even have it for next year. GSRP, this is what the increase Rebecca is expecting, about $315,000. Again, as she mentioned, we still don't quite know for sure what that's going to look like, but this is our best educated guess as to what that increase will look like. Educator compensation program, that's the one I just mentioned on the previous one. It was funding that came in to support teacher wages. That's going to go away. Imagine Learning 99U, that's the curriculum. That revenue is also going to go away. Oh no. Property tax is a slight increase here, as we expect annually. Interest revenue, I'm bumping that annual amount up to $160 expected for next year. Kids Corner tuition, that is going to decrease because those students will now be enrolled in the GSRP program, so as they're getting fully funded, we lose that parent tuition funding. ESSER ARP is going away. Huge hit there of 130,000, or oh my gosh, 830,000. Health Resource Advocate, I did bump that back up to 2 FTE positions. Again, like I said, we're thinking maybe we'll get 3 to 4, keeping our fingers crossed on that. Grant reimbursement, I think if you remember from my amendment, we were behind on invoicing the Williamston Schools Foundation a few years for that funding, so I've caught that up, so that will decrease in future years and just be the annual amount. Title funding, we expect a decrease. That always happens or seems to, but then we do get a kickback later in the year, hopefully. 23G, that's just, that's the after-school program that it was just this last semester for this school year, so next year is going to be 2 semesters and hopefully use up all that funding. And then just about 4,000 of miscellaneous other revenue adjustments. Expense adjustments, annual salary and benefit increases of almost 500,000. Here, these next 2 line items are what are causing us to dip back into fund balance. We have a behavioral specialist that we're adding, as well as 3 FTE special ed paraprofessionals. So those 2 there are about 211,000, and you'll recall that it was about 238,000 we're going to pull from fund balance. So because we're adding those positions in here, that's what's causing us to dip in a little bit. Summer school program, that was the 11T ESSER program that we're getting rid of because we're losing the ESSER funding. I decreased the 31A Section 97 programs to match the revenues we're losing. We will not have the 99U curriculum purchase this year. High school capital outlay will no longer exist because that was due to that transportation reimbursement. ESSER technology purchases are going down that we will not have this coming year, and other miscellaneous adjustments of 32,000. Sorry, that's quite a mouthful. So as I said, we estimate that we will pull about 238,000 from fund balance. That will decrease us to 6.5 million or 24.3% of expenditures. So we're still in a great spot. And as always, I do expect both of these budgets to still be conservative. So I think we will end up in a better spot than what I'm projecting here, because I like to keep it that way. Any questions on this one?
So I just want to clarify for everybody, most of the money that we're saying we're not going to get was all that money we got from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to commend Sarah and Adam. There are a lot of school districts facing some really significant cuts and issues because they took that, I mean, they spent more money than what they were going to have. They thought they were going to have it forever. So I really appreciate being conservative, using it how we needed to, and then knowing it was going to go away. Otherwise, that would make a major difference in our stuff. So
I do want to caveat, though, that we have told the board for 2 years that there'd be a drawdown, and now we're starting to see that. So we knew it was coming. It's here, but we are not laying off our staff. We're going to have the same support structures in place that we had this year, and we're actually hoping to add a couple key roles in some strategic locations. So, but yeah, you just pull up any newspaper in the state, and you'll see there's districts all over the place laying off hundreds of employees. It's not going to be a good year for a lot of folks, unfortunately, because of the loss of revenue and how districts budgeted locally.
So again, I really appreciate, I know that it's been coming, and I really appreciate how you two worked to budget this, and so we didn't have major loss. Any other questions? Okay.
I'll stay up here for the L4029, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I don't really have anything to point at or anything like that, but I know you guys have attachments. The L4029 is what we give to the jurisdictions to report what they need to levy on the properties in their jurisdiction. And the supporting documents you have there kind of support this L4029. I did want to point out 3 things on the L4029. So you'll see in column 5, which is the 2023 millage rate, that you'll see was 17.77 last year for the operating. If you'll recall, that is what we are voting on in August. This should be 18, but it's been reduced through the Headley rollback to 17.7702. when the state calculates our state aid, they are assuming that we're getting the 18 mills, and so when that gets reduced, we lose funding that the state doesn't make up for, so that's just lost to us. So that is why we are doing that hedge vote in August to bump that back up. Again, this is the first time too, looking in column 6, down at the bottom 2 lines, recreation fund and sinking fund, they are also experiencing a rollback for the first time this year. And that's due to their specific property rates decreasing as well. Or sorry, increasing above what is allowed for inflation. So we're getting little small reductions there. They shouldn't be that impactful, but just FYI. But they're there.
Any questions for Sarah on this?
No? Cool. Thank you.
Again, school finance can be a little tricky, so if you are looking at this later and have more specific questions, please reach out to Sarah or Adam, but Sarah usually can, not to say that Adam can't answer your question, but you can start with Sarah, and then if she isn't around, you can go to Adam. Otherwise, we'll move this for a vote, or just to, at our next meeting. Contract for our detection dog. Is that you?
Okay.
Sure.
If you want. So our contract is up for renewal with Zebra K9. This provides the detection and emotional support dog team in the district. It's been an extremely popular addition over the last year, according to parent and student staff survey results. They are offering the opportunity to go with a multi-year contract to lock in our current rate. Again, this is one of the benefits of the fiscal planning that's been done, where this is not a service that we have to cut. My recommendation is that the board adopt a 3-year contract with the understanding that there is a clause in the contract that would allow us to end it should we need to due to fiscal reasons or any other circumstance. It's on the first page, section 1.3. Otherwise, that's the recommendation. Any questions I can address?
I know it's been hugely popular and very helpful, I believe.
Adam, as far as I can recall, looking at this, it will be the same animal?
We asked the company to put a clause in that Gemini would be with us throughout the duration unless she became ill or unable to fulfill the functions of the job. She just turned 3 last week, so we're hoping she'll be around for many years to come.
Any other questions? Okay, we can move that to vote for our next meeting.
Well, can I ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we know that Gemini's handler is going to be leaving. Would the new handler come before the board so we can meet her or him?
We can arrange that. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus we get to see Gemini.
Moving on, food service agreement. Sarah, Adam, who wants to take it?
We're just extending our food service agreement with Hazlitt. They are adding an assistant to Jim to help with the kind of increased workload that he's been experiencing. So our cost is going to increase about $30,000. Again, that's all coming from the food service budget. It's not general fund. It's not going to affect general fund. And we do have ample funds in the food service funds. But yeah, just continuing that with Hazlitt.
Still a deal that we don't have to pay for it totally by ourselves, and Jim does a really good job, so.
He does.
Any questions on our,
Is that contract a 1-year contract?
I think we renew it every year,
Is that a
correct?
1-year?
It is a 1 year, but we do typically renew it. Yes.
I just didn't know. I know that they're going to be getting a new superintendent, and I don't know
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
what that
I mean,
means.
we'll look at it
after.
every year.
Hmm.
Hopefully. Next, high school athletic association membership. Anything that you want to tell us about this?
Keeps us in the association.
Yeah. Any questions about this? We do this every year, just have to sign up. Okay, now to our board policies. I'll start with Dave, and Dave, you decide who's gonna, I guess, kind of move through.
Sure, I'll let Adam add additional commentary. We've got one policy to add, which is enrollment in kindergarten. We're revising quite a large number of them, as well as removing a number that have become redundant with the new additions. But the details for each of these are in the attachments to the board deck.
And again, I want to state, just like with the handbooks, it's very easy to go through here. I'm guessing Betsy does this, but I'm just making an assumption. It's very easy to go through here to see which ones have been revised, which ones are new, and which ones have been taken off the way that this is organized, so it makes it much easier. I am assuming that the ad for the enrollment of kindergarten, some of this is kind of law. So is this one that Troon is recommending that we put in our policy, or add as a policy?
Yes, this is coming from Troon, and I think the only minimal changes to what they offered, Adam, additional detail?
Yeah, Chin recommended it. We ran it through Discovery. They were on board, so that's the recommendation. We just removed the tuition part.
Okay. Most of the revisions, just to kind of keep in line with the Troon policies?
Yeah, you gotta remember the Troon policies are like, they're connected to others, so like when you go to revise one, you end up following the dots, and then before you know it, you got 6 policies that you needed to revise when you only really wanted to look at the one. But on the whole, they're good updates, they're in keeping with the law. Remember that we really focused on, the policy committee's really focused on trying to go after the 1997 policies, but there's a lot of other stuff that's like, 2010, 2014, the law's changed a lot, and this is kind of helping accelerate moving through some of those that are out of date or unnecessary. There are a couple policies in here I've been waiting to get attorneys' opinions on, because there weren't ones I wanted to take on my own, and found out they weren't needed. So we're removing them. I guess they were in 1997, I don't know, but not anymore.
Okay.
And then others, like the guidance program, and I can go through these by exception if you want, but the guidance program is already covered in the handbooks, so if you're a parent, you're looking for info on that, there's a place to find it, and it's board approved already.
So any questions about these, the adding, revising, removal? No? All right, again, if you have any questions, please reach out to Dave or anyone else on the policy committee or Adam. Otherwise, we will move all of these for our next meeting.
Can I ask one question on the graduation requirements, Adam? The one piece on the personal finance that I know is coming, will that necessitate, does the high school believe that will necessitate additional staffing needs?
No, there's 2 options. You can take the personal finance class we've always had, so that's, or you can get it through a module in economics. So they allow for both options, so kids will be able to sign up for personal finance based on what their preference is and how the rest of their schedule looks.
But every student has to do econ.
Every student needs to take personal finance starting next year. So but not, I don't believe econ has to be taken. Civics is a requirement.
Okay.
I can clarify that, but bottom line is,
Merged.
Maybe it is.
yeah, I don't want to speculate on that piece. I can just speak specifically to
Yeah,
personal
because-
finance, that every incoming freshman will be required to take that. You just have 2 options as to where you want to get that completed.
So this is why I say that, because under course requirements, if you look at number 4, it says 3 credits of social science, including U.S. history and geography, world history and geography, 1 half credit of civics, and a half credit of economics. But then we also say that the student has to have 1 half credit of personal finance. So you have 2 separate graduation requirements saying that the student has to take econ and personal finance. So if you're saying that they can fulfill it by taking econ, then you're saying that number 10 is not valid. So you might want to verify.
You're getting and I can give you more detail on this later, but you're getting the credit for personal finance, I believe, through economics, but I'll talk with the high school and get that.
I just want to make sure.
No, I feel like it needs to say something like you need to take a credit or a half credit and choose one option. You know, how
We just need to make sure it's
clarify
clear
what's correct.
when we're
I
voting
agree.
on it.
Good.
Any other questions? Okay, we are moving into a closed session at this time for attorney-client privilege. So can I please have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege discussion.
Okay, so first by Chris, or I'm sorry, first by Sarah, second, Deb. Can you take us through roll call?
Amanda, yes? Chris?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Deborah? Yes. Julie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Nancy.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously to go into closed session.
Okay,
Do we need to take a step or something?
we're gonna go there.
I don't think you need to bring it up.
I think someone can be in here.
Are you back?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion to come out of closed session, please.
Motion to come out of closed session?
Second.
Okay, so I have first Chris, second Deb. And we came out of closed session at 7:20.
Do you need a roll?
Is that a roll call?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amanda, can I please have a roll
Yes. Chris?
Yep.
Dave?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Nancy?
call? Yes.
Motion passes unanimously to come back in regular session.
Okay, can I please have a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 20th, 2024, as presented.
Second?
Okay, first Deb, second Chris. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Can I please have a motion to approve the middle school handbook?
I recommend that the Williamston Board of Education approve the Williamston Middle School 2024-2025 student handbook as presented.
Second?
Second, I heard Dave. So first Julie, second Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Can I have a motion for the high school handbook?
Move the Williamston Board of Education approve the Williamston High School 2024-25 student handbook as presented.
Second. And second, I'm sorry, was that Amanda or
Amanda.
Amanda?
That's what I heard.
Okay, so first Dave, second Amanda. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Can I have a motion for our athletic handbook?
I move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the 2024-25 athletics handbook as presented.
Second?
Second?
Chris. So first Julie, second Chris. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval, can I have a motion to approve our MASB membership?
I move that the Williamston Community Schools approve membership in the Michigan Association of School Boards for the 2024-25 school year.
Second?
Second, I heard Dave. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have our board goals set there. We do not have any comments, correspondence. We moved our citizen comments, but we do not have anyone in the audience right now. Any board member reports or requests?
I have two. Just a quick PSA, if you have any elementary students, please check the lost and found. And probably this goes for any school, but particularly the elementary school. There is an abundance of lost and found items, so check that out, please. And then, going back to the last meeting, we had Dr. Delp up there talk about social emotional learning and how I'm disappointed to hear that it is being dialed back for students. And so Adam, I would like to get an update, the board, get an update on either a student survey, a staff survey, and how that's going toward the end or beginning of, either the end of the first lesson period or beginning of the second lesson period.
I'm gonna piggyback on that. I think, after I too was disappointed to hear that, and there are many reasons for this, I've talked about them before, and I'd be happy to talk to you individually again. But I do think, sometimes the language gets mixed. So, Dr. Delp talked about the LINKS program. The LINKS program is the name of the curriculum. We have also then heard about our social emotional, or I believe it's also an SOE program. So I think when we have those labels intertwined, even for me who works in this business, sometimes I get confused of what is what. So if we could somehow stick to one, if that makes sense. I know, or maybe put links and behind it, social emotional program. I just think sometimes as a board member, that can get lost of what kind of curriculum we're really talking about. But I guess I would have liked to see some adjustments made to it before it was just pulled out of the way that it was being used. And I'm not sure if we can switch our terminology or make it consistent, but we can kind of at the very least, remind each other what everything stands for. Anybody else?
I would like to make a request that this board form a year-long committee to study the effects of cell phone use in the schools. And I think the committee needs to have administrators, teachers, even students on it, and that we look at, and parents also, but we look at how the cell phone policy that we've chosen is working or not working, and that we get data from everybody involved, because we did not have that data this year before we voted, and I think it would have really been helpful to have that.
Idea. Go ahead.
Not on that subject, but just very quickly, I know we are all proud of our excellent schools, but really sunk in presiding over the senior awards that we had 60 students, over 60 students who were summa cum laude, which is 3.9 or higher.
Wow.
And it's just outstanding.
Impressive. Lots of medals and tassels. And
Yeah.
wearing extra.
Yeah. Anybody else? I just want to take a moment to thank, we are kind of wrapping up the year, to thank Betsy and Sarah and Adam for all your work you do to get us ready for this board meeting, all of you for all the work you do to get us here. I also would like to touch on graduation. It was a beautiful event. I had many people say how much they, enjoyed it, that, it kind of moved quicker than they thought, and that they really were appreciative to the staff on stage, to the kids actually getting their diploma, to the pictures afterwards, to everything kind of just moved in a line. And so even though we, had some people unfortunately unhappy, that overall, graduation takes a lot to Michelle really does a lot, and that band does a lot, and that choir does a
Michelle
lot.
called me on Saturday. I was like, "What are you doing? It's 3 in the afternoon." She said, "Well, it's graduation."
Great, we have graduation. She's there very early. She's there putting it together, and so I've intercepted a lot of phone calls and emails today. I've been talking to Delp a lot today, and even with all of that, people were like, it was graduation. It was a happy time. The kids did a fabulous job, and how this class is just an exceptional class, and how the teachers that were on stage were really appreciative of all of those moments. So thank them for graduation, and but also everybody's hard work of coming to the end of our school year. Anything else? Okay. Can I have a motion for?
Sorry.
Just a question, Nancy, and I think I brought this up to you yesterday, but I know yesterday we had one teacher that came forward and had an interest in providing their child with their diploma. And I'd like us to examine whether that policy that we have in place, or kind of the unwritten rule that it's a board privilege to be able to do that, that whether we should extend that to others.
I can't necessarily open that up to discussion. I do have more information on that situation. I also have talked to Dr. Delp about that, and kind of some wishes that he's thinking, same that Dr. Tanis had. I do also want to say that so I can talk to you about that, and we could then put that on as discussion maybe for next June to have a larger thing, but he did voice some of his thoughts, and we might have kind of come to a happy medium with that.
Great.
But we can see.
I'm gonna add, just because we might as well just throw it all up there.
Go ahead.
how is the preschool budget for the state going to affect our young five class within the next 2, 3, 5 years? I mean, young fives, I think, was more of, if you're not ready for kindergarten, but if we have a substantial amount of kids going through a pre-K, 4-year-old, year-round program, will that possibly eliminate the need of having a young fives program that is not being used except for the fact of just wanting my kid to be a year older for sports? I mean, it's like, can be used as a lot of things of like kids hold their breath. Coming from a sports thing, it is a big thing of, you know, either switching schools, and if you happen to have a school that has a young five, you can just have them go into young five, and then they're a year ahead, and it just, you know, but how is
So,
that
I think,
gonna affect it?
That would be a really good question for Rebecca, but just from my old position, I can kind of fill in a little bit. I think right now we don't, even if we had 72 slots and she's opening it to 72 slots, we usually get over 100 kids in for kindergarten or that go through enrollment. So we are, like, not all parents want them to attend Great Parents Grade Start. Not all of them want them to attend preschool. We get people that move in. There's a whole different bubble there, so I feel like a lot would have to happen.
Well,
because
I was
really
just
hard.
going off the budget, so you're right, I mean, the governor's budget was no income limits across the board, so
Right,
that would
but
pretty
even
much,
with doing that,
everybody would go, have that option.
have that option. Even with doing that, I think we have run into this issue in a lot of different districts, or in this district where families don't want that free preschool because they look like they're poor. They want to go to the tuition preschool. So it is a lot of finagling and having conversations of, this is the same program, it actually has more restrictions, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like, could that be a possibility? Absolutely. I feel like we're probably 10 years away from that,
Okay.
if that. But that's just my guess. We could ask Rebecca that. That would be a good question for Rebecca, but I think it's just a gamble and a guess.
Well, Adam, didn't you say that we have more people that are asking for young fives than we have spots right now? Yeah.
I think we have
So-
a lot of, we still have a lot of COVID kids. We
It's a
have a
good
lot of.
question, it's gonna take some time. We'll talk about it, I don't know,
Yeah.
Right.
it's gonna be interesting.
I don't see it going away for a really long time. And I can give you more specifics if you want.
No,
for that.
I just didn't know, I never had any children in young five, so I don't know what the parameters are of making sure that that room is full of kids that really need young five and not kindergarten. Like what do you do to make sure we are assessing somebody that really needs to be in young five and somebody that's like, no, you don't need to be in young five, you can be in regular kindergarten.
I think a lot of it comes down to, I had one child in young fives, but it came down to a parental decision. Juliana went through young fives, and for us, it wasn't that she wasn't academically ready. She was academically ready, she just wasn't socially ready. So it was a choice.
And I do feel like we're crossing into a line of discussion.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of reasons that,
Right,
that
and I
think
can kinda give you
parents are
some-
really, you have that conversation with the kindergarten teachers about what the parents feel is right and what
Right.
the school thinks.
But, there is some history there, so I can talk to you about that, and I
No
can
problem.
reach out to Rebecca also and kind of get more information. Anything else? Okay, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I first have Sarah, second Deb. Any other information? We are adjourned at 7:33.